Congratulations, guys. You've been picked up for an 8th season, so I think this is working. Well, let's start with you, because everybody always says it's the chemistry. We all get along so well, and I do think that's true. But what do you think the magic is of the past 7 seasons for you?
I think, it started with a great script. I think it always starts with a great story. And then, it sort of clicked from the beginning. One of the first scenes that we shot was the family dinner scene.
When Jennifer Esposito collapsed on the Blue Bloods set, CBS didn't call an ambulance. They sent her a termination notice. She's not the only one with a dark exit story. Amy Carlson was killed off without warning. Nicholas Turturro disappeared without explanation. And others were pushed out for reasons that will leave you speechless. Today, we're revealing why your favorite characters really left, and the devastating secrets they've kept hidden until now. Before Blue Bloods became one of the longest-running police dramas on television, it started as an idea from 2 experienced writers. Mitchell Burgess and Robin Green had already made a name for themselves with The Sopranos, a show that redefined television with its complex storytelling. But after leaving that series in 2005, they wanted to create something different. Instead of focusing on criminals, they wanted to tell a story about the people who enforce the law. They wanted to explore the lives of a family that had dedicated itself to justice. Robin Green had an unusual path to television. In the 1970s, she wrote for Rolling Stone, covering music and pop culture. That gave her a sharp sense of storytelling and character, something that would later define her work in TV. She met Mitchell Burgess while working on Northern Exposure, a show known for its mix of humor and drama. They became a writing team, eventually joining The Sopranos, where they won multiple Emmy Awards for their work. But creative differences with the show's creator, David Chase, led them to walk away. That exit gave them the chance to build something new. Their new show was originally called Reagan's Law. It focused on a family of law enforcement officers, with each member serving the justice system in a different way. But as the concept evolved, they changed the title to Blue Bloods. The name had a double meaning. It referenced nobility, but it also hinted at the idea that this family bled blue in service to the NYPD. The change made sense. It shifted the focus from just being about law enforcement to being about legacy, duty, and the weight of family tradition. At the heart of the show was the Reagan family, an Irish Catholic clan with a deep history in law enforcement. Frank Reagan, played by Tom Selleck, was the New York City Police Commissioner. He led the department, but he also led his family. His oldest son, Danny, played by Donnie Wahlberg, was a tough detective who wasn't afraid to bend the rules. His daughter, Erin, played by Bridget Moynihan, worked as an assistant district attorney, often clashing with her brothers over legal matters. His youngest son, Jamie, played by Will Estes, was a police sergeant trying to balance idealism with the realities of the job. The Reagan family wasn't perfect. They argued, they challenged each other's beliefs, but they always came together, especially for their weekly Sunday dinners. These meals became one of the most memorable parts of the show. They weren't just family gatherings. They were moments where personal and professional lives collided. Discussions about faith, justice, and duty often turned into heated debates. But no matter how intense things got, the Reagans always ended the meal as a family. That sense of unity, despite their differences, was a big reason why audiences connected with the show. New York City itself played a major role. The show filmed on location, capturing the city's energy and character. From busy Manhattan streets to quiet Brooklyn neighborhoods, the setting made Blue Bloods feel grounded and real. Tom Selleck once said that the city was another character in the series. That was true in every way. The show didn't just use the city as a backdrop. It wove New York's culture, politics, and history into its storylines. Tom Selleck wasn't looking for just any TV role when Blue Bloods came his way. He had already built a legendary career with Magnum, PI, and he knew the right project had to offer something special. When he read the script, he saw more than a police drama. This was a show about family, about leadership, about making tough choices. That's what pulled him in. Playing Frank Reagan wasn't just about wearing a badge. It was about being a father, a mentor, and a man who carried the weight of an entire department. Selleck knew how to bring that kind of presence to the screen. His background in the California Army National Guard gave him a real understanding of discipline and responsibility. That experience shaped the way he played Frank, making him feel like a real commissioner rather than just an actor in uniform. From the beginning, he saw that Blue Bloods had something most crime shows didn't. It had heart. The Reagan family dinners weren't just scenes. They were the core of the story. They showed the struggles of a family built around law enforcement. Those moments gave the show its emotional depth, and Selleck made sure they felt real. Over the years, his performance turned Frank Reagan into one of TV's most respected characters. In 2017, he even earned a People's Choice Award nomination. If Selleck was the foundation of the show, Donnie Wahlberg brought the fire. His role as Danny Reagan, Frank's oldest son, gave Blue Bloods its intensity. Before this, Wahlberg had played tough roles in The Sixth Sense and Saw, but this was different. This was a chance to create a character with depth. Danny wasn't just another hard-nosed detective. He was a man who had seen too much and still kept fighting. Wahlberg wanted Danny to feel real, so he put in the work. He spent time with real detectives, learned their stories, and paid attention to the little things. The way they talked, the way they carried themselves. He wanted to make sure every detail was right. That dedication made Danny one of the most compelling characters on the show. He wasn't just tough, he was human. He carried the weight of his job, but he also had a family to protect. That balance made him more than just another cop on TV. One of the strongest parts of Danny's story was his relationship with his father. Frank was the boss, but he was also a dad. That meant rules, but it also meant trust. Their clashes gave the show some of its best moments. Wahlberg and Selleck had real chemistry, and it made their scenes together powerful. Off-screen, Wahlberg wasn't just focused on his own role. He saw potential in the cast around him. When the producers were considering Bridget Moynihan for the role of Erin Reagan, he pushed for her to take it. He knew she would bring something special to the show, and he was right. Moynihan's character, Erin, was different from her brothers. She wasn't out on the streets, but she was still fighting for justice. As an assistant district attorney, she had to navigate the legal side of law enforcement. That put her in conflict with her family sometimes, but it also made her one of the strongest voices on the show. At first, Moynihan wasn't sure about the role. She had built a successful career with Sex and the City and Coyote Ugly, and this was a different kind of challenge. But once she saw the depth of the character, she knew it was the right move. Erin wasn't just a supporting role. She was a force. She had to stand up to her brothers, challenge her father, and prove herself in a world dominated by men. Over the seasons, Erin's character evolved. She started out as an idealist, but the realities of the justice system forced her to grow. Moynihan captured that transformation perfectly. She showed Erin's struggles, her determination, and the moments when she questioned if she was making a difference. That made her one of the most compelling characters in the series. Then there was Will Estes as Jamie Reagan, the youngest in the family. His character had one of the most interesting journeys in Blue Bloods. He was a Harvard graduate who could have taken any career path, but he chose to become a cop. That decision set him apart from his siblings. He wasn't following a legacy, he was building his own. When Blue Bloods premiered on September 24, 2010, it didn't take long to make an impact. A police drama centered around the Reagan family, it was different from most crime shows. It wasn't just about solving cases. It was about family, loyalty, and the personal struggles that come with working in law enforcement. From the start, the show pulled in impressive numbers. In its first season, it averaged 12.58 million viewers. That alone was a major achievement. But what made it even more impressive was its time slot. Friday nights had a reputation for being difficult. Many shows struggled to survive because fewer people watched TV at the end of the week. Blue Bloods didn't just survive, it thrived. The show's highest-rated episode in the first season, Little Fish, drew 12.3 million viewers. The season finale wasn't far behind, pulling in 11.78 million. Those numbers proved one thing. People weren't just watching casually. They were invested. A big reason for that was the cast. Tom Selleck played Frank Reagan, the respected police commissioner and head of the Reagan family. He wasn't just a boss. He was a father, a mentor, and the moral center of the show. Selleck had already been a television legend from his days on Magnum P.I. But this role gave him a new kind of authority. He brought wisdom and emotional depth to Frank, making him a character that felt real. Then there was Donnie Wahlberg as Danny Reagan. Unlike Frank, Danny was hot-tempered and impulsive. He bent the rules when he needed to and wasn't afraid to push boundaries. Wahlberg gave the character a raw energy that made him one of the most compelling parts of the show. His dynamic with Selleck became one of the show's strongest elements. Off-screen, Wahlberg even started calling Selleck Dad, which only made their father-son relationship feel more authentic. But the heart of Blue Bloods wasn't just its action or its performances. It was the Reagan family itself. Every week, audiences saw the family sit down for Sunday dinner. These scenes weren't just filler. They showed real conversations about justice, ethics, and family values. The arguments felt real. The love felt real. This was a family that cared about each other, even when they didn't agree. That emotional depth helped Blue Bloods reach audiences around the world. In Canada, it became the most watched new drama of the season. It ranked among the top 20 programs on CTV. In the UK, it consistently landed in the top 5 on Sky Atlantic, pulling in between 450,000 and 630,000 viewers per episode. Australia welcomed it with strong numbers, too. The premiere attracted over 1 million viewers. Even after it moved to a different channel, it kept a loyal following. CBS knew exactly what they had with Blue Bloods. They kept it on Friday nights, trusting that the audience would keep coming back. And they did. Season after season, it remained one of the highest-rated shows of the night. Even in its final season, it still drew millions. The finale alone had 6.68 million live viewers, with projections pushing the number past 11.4 million after a week. However, few cast members left Blue Bloods before the official finale. Amy Carlson played Linda Reagan on Blue Bloods for 7 seasons. From the very first episode in 2010, she was a major part of the show. As Danny Reagan's wife and the mother of their 2 sons, Jack and Sean, she brought warmth to the Reagan family. She wasn't just a supporting character. She had her own career as a nurse, often showing a different side of the world the show explored. Her presence helped balance the intense police drama with emotional and family-driven moments. Fans loved Linda because she was strong and independent. She stood by Danny, but she wasn't just there to support him. She had her own voice. Her relationship with Danny felt real, and that made the Reagan family dynamic even more believable. Carlson appeared in 155 episodes, making Linda one of the most familiar faces on the show. That's why her sudden exit shocked so many people. When Season 8 began in 2017, viewers were hit with unexpected news. Linda had died in a helicopter crash. There was no warning, no final scene, no emotional goodbye. The show revealed her death in a casual conversation, leaving fans confused and upset. A character who had been part of the story for years was gone in an instant. Amy Carlson herself was just as surprised as the audience. In an interview, she admitted that she had no idea Linda would be written off that way. She hadn't expected her character to die off-screen, with no closure. "I feel badly that she dies the way she dies. I did not know they would do that. I was surprised. I wouldn't have done that," she said. Fans shared her frustration, filling social media with comments about how unfair Linda's exit felt. The decision to kill off Linda was made by the show's writers. Some believed they wanted to create a dramatic shift in Danny's story, forcing him to deal with life as a widower. Others thought it was simply a rushed way to explain Carlson's departure. Executive producer Kevin Wade said Carlson had decided to leave, but he didn't explain why her character was written out so suddenly. Carlson's contract ended after Season 7, and she chose not to renew it. There was no public dispute, just a decision to move on. But the way her departure was handled left many people feeling like Linda's story was unfinished. Carlson later said she wished Linda had been given a proper farewell, something that felt meaningful after 7 years on the show. Meanwhile, Sammy Gale played Nikki Reagan Boyle from the very start of Blue Bloods. She was introduced as Erin Reagan's daughter in Season 1, first as a recurring character, then as a main cast member from Season 2 through Season 10. Nikki was the youngest member of the Reagan family, growing up in the middle of intense debates about law, justice, and family loyalty. From the beginning, her story was shaped by the world around her. With a mother who worked as an assistant district attorney and a grandfather who served as the police commissioner, she was constantly surrounded by discussions about right and wrong. She admired her family's dedication, but often questioned their decisions. She wanted to make a difference, though she wasn't always sure how. One of her most dramatic moments came in Season 6. A serial killer named Thomas Wilder had been tormenting the NYPD, and Nikki became his next target. He kidnapped her, putting her in a life-or-death situation that changed the way she saw the world. That experience made her stronger, but it also deepened her understanding of the dangers her family faced every day. Sammy Gale brought warmth and energy to the role, making Nikki a favorite among fans. She was intelligent, curious, and sometimes rebellious, which made her character feel real. But as the show moved forward, the focus began shifting to the adult members of the Reagan family. Nikki's appearances became less frequent, and she slowly faded into the background. This change wasn't just about the storyline. It also reflected Sammy Gale's personal life. She was balancing her acting career with her education, first through homeschooling and later at Columbia University, where she studied political science and art history. Her academic commitments made it harder for her to be available for filming, so the writers gave Nikki a natural exit. They sent her to San Francisco for a new job, keeping the door open for her return. Even though Nikki's time on the show became limited, her presence was never forgotten. Fans still remember her as a key part of the Reagan family, and Sammy Gale has shared her hopes of bringing Nikki back. Moreover, Jennifer Esposito's exit from Blue Bloods after Season 3 wasn't just unexpected. It became a controversy. CBS claimed she could only work part-time, which made it impossible for her to continue as Detective Jackie Curatola. They put her character on a leave of absence, but said she might return in the future. Esposito told a different story. For years, she had been dealing with painful stomach issues and hospital visits without knowing why. In 2012, doctors finally diagnosed her with celiac disease. The condition made it impossible for her to eat gluten without severe health consequences. To manage her symptoms, her doctor told her to reduce her workload. She asked CBS for a lighter schedule, but they refused. Things took a turn for the worse when she collapsed on set. Her doctor ordered her to take a week off, but CBS responded by putting her on unpaid leave. They also blocked her from working anywhere else. Esposito believed they didn't take her illness seriously. She felt they thought she was using it as an excuse to get a raise. Frustrated and out of options, she spoke out on social media. She called CBS's decision absolutely shameful and said they had ignored medical advice. Losing blue bloods was a huge blow, but instead of letting it stop her, she turned her struggle into something positive. In 2013, she opened Jennifer's Way, a gluten-free bakery in Manhattan's West Village. It wasn't just a business. It was a way to help others with the same condition. Her acting career continued. She landed roles in Taxi Brooklyn and NCIS, proving she wasn't going anywhere. Then, in 2023, over a decade after her departure, she returned to Blue Bloods. Her character, Jackie Curatola, was back, now as a chief of police in a small town. Fans who had followed her journey saw this as more than just a guest appearance. It was a moment of closure. Meanwhile, Nicholas Turturro's exit from Blue Bloods after season 6 was sudden. One moment, Sergeant Anthony Renzulli was guiding Jamie Reagan, offering advice and adding a mix of humor and authority to the show. The next, he was gone. No goodbye, no explanation, just missing. Neither CBS nor Turturro ever gave a reason for his departure. This silence left fans guessing. Some believed there might have been conflicts behind the scenes. Others thought the writers simply decided to move on. But without an official answer, all of it remained speculation. One possible reason was Turturro's busy career. Even while playing Renzulli, he took on several other roles. He appeared in Paul Blart, Mall Cop 2, and Zookeeper. He also made guest appearances in shows like White Collar and The Night Of, where he worked alongside his brother, John Turturro. With so many projects, it's easy to see how scheduling conflicts could have played a part in his departure. Even after leaving, Turturro never completely closed the door on Blue Bloods. In 2013, he encouraged fans to reach out to CBS if they wanted to see more of Renzulli. He even suggested a spin-off focused on the character. This showed that he still had an interest in returning, which gave fans hope. His absence changed the show. Renzulli had been a key figure in Jamie Reagan's journey. He was more than just a supervisor. He was a mentor. He had experience, wisdom, and a no-nonsense approach that helped shape Jamie as a cop. Losing that dynamic left a noticeable gap. Lauren Patton's time on Blue Bloods came to an end in season 12, but her character's exit wasn't what many expected. Officer Rachel Witten didn't leave to focus on education. She left because the weight of police work had finally become too much. The stress, the pressure, and the constant challenges had taken their toll. Her decision to walk away wasn't just another storyline. It reflected the real struggles many officers face. At the same time, Patton was ready for something new. She had already made a name for herself on Broadway with Jagged Little Pill, a role that won her a Tony Award. With fresh opportunities ahead, including a part in Hulu's Career Opportunities in Murder and Mayhem, it was time to move on. Patton first appeared in season 8. Her role was small at first, but grew over time. By season 11, Rachel Witten had become a familiar face, dealing with intense situations on the job. In one case, she was reprimanded for her actions during a tense encounter. Over time, the emotional strain became too much to ignore. By season 12, she reached a breaking point. The writers wove this into the show, making her departure feel natural. Instead of writing her off abruptly, they gave her an exit that felt true to her character. Her last day on set was emotional. The cast and crew had become like family, and saying goodbye wasn't easy. Patton was grateful for the experience, but she didn't rule out a return. "May this only be goodbye for now," she said, leaving fans with hope. That moment came in season 14, episode 14. Rachel Witten returned, not as a cop, but as a social worker. It was a perfect fit. Even after leaving the NYPD, she still wanted to help people. Her departure didn't just change her story. It had a big impact on Eddie Janko Reagan, played by Vanessa Ray. Eddie and Rachel had built a strong partnership, one that had become an important part of the show. Losing Rachel meant Eddie had to adjust. She had to find a new partner and deal with the emotional void Rachel left behind. The writers used this shift to explore Eddie's growth, showing how she handled change and moved forward. David Ramsey's time on Blue Bloods came to an end when his character, Mayor Carter Poole, resigned in 2017. His exit wasn't dramatic, but it marked a big shift in the show's political storyline. The real reason behind his departure had little to do with the script. It was all about scheduling. At the time, Ramsey was also starring in Arrow as John Diggle, a role that kept getting bigger as the show expanded. Balancing both series became harder, and eventually, he had to choose. When Arrow started in 2012, Ramsey was still appearing on Blue Bloods. Back then, it was manageable. But as the Arrowverse grew, it introduced spin-offs like The Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. Diggle wasn't just part of Arrow anymore. He was showing up in crossover events and guest appearances across multiple series. The more his role expanded, the harder it became to fly back and forth between Vancouver, where Arrow filmed, and New York, where Blue Bloods was based. At some point, something had to give. Leaving Blue Bloods wasn't an easy choice. Ramsey enjoyed playing Poole, especially because of the political debates with Tom Selleck's character, Commissioner Frank Reagan. But Arrow wasn't just offering him more screen time. It was giving him new opportunities behind the camera. In the show's 7th season, he made his directorial debut, and from that point on, he continued directing episodes while still acting. Blue Bloods wrapped up its 14-season run with a finale that kept fans on edge and delivered the emotional closure they had been waiting for. The last episode, End of Tour, brought the Reagan family together for one final high-stakes case. New York's gangs were causing chaos, demanding the release of their imprisoned members. Frank Reagan stood firm, refusing to give in, while Danny, Jamie, and the rest of the team worked to bring the situation under control. The tension ran high, but in the end, justice prevailed. Beyond the action, the finale gave fans a heartfelt goodbye. The Reagan family dinner, a tradition that had been at the heart of the show, carried even more weight this time. Jamie and Eddie shared life-changing news. They were expecting a baby. That moment, filled with warmth and joy, gave viewers a sense of completion. After years of challenges, the family was still standing strong, ready for the next chapter of their lives. The numbers proved how much people still cared. The finale drew 6.68 million live viewers, the highest of the season. Within a week, that number was expected to climb past 11.4 million. After 14 years on air, those figures spoke volumes. The show had never lost its audience, even on a tough Friday night time slot. A big part of its success came from its balance of police drama and family storytelling. Tom Selleck's portrayal of Frank Reagan gave the series a steady moral center. Every case, Every challenge tied back to the values he stood for: loyalty, justice, and family. The show didn't just tell crime stories. It tackled real-world issues like police reform and social justice, keeping the storytelling relevant and engaging. Even though the series has ended, Blue Bloods may not be gone for good. Donnie Wahlberg, who played Danny Reagan, has hinted at the possibility of a spin-off. He's open to returning, whether in a continuation of Danny's story or a new take on the Reagan legacy. With streaming platforms now dominating TV, a spin-off could easily find a home on Paramount Plus or CBS.